it's easy.
So everybody get a white hymn, we'll turn to page 347.
That was a Morrison remix. I'm like, what happened here? And then I finally caught what he was doing. He skipped the first half of that one. He's trying to shorten it up a little bit. Thank you for coming back and being with us this evening. And glad to see you didn't get washed away. Jamie said we got rain around here. We didn't, 2 miles over the road, we didn't get nothing. But I'm thankful because it seems like every time I sell chickens, it's a muddy mess over there. But I'm thankful that the Lord has protected us through the storms and looking forward to a good night in His house. Do remember the announcements that we went over this morning. There will be no Ladies Fellowship tomorrow night. They pushed that off one more week, so it'll be taking place the following Monday. So, the second Monday. Okay, the following Monday wasn't good enough. The second Monday of June, the Ladies Fellowship will be taking place. Vacation Bible School will be June the 22nd through the 26th. That Sunday night, we will be having the kickoff party here. The church will be invited. We'll be having hamburgers and hot dogs and all that good stuff. And we'll be having a lot of games and different things for the young people. So mark that on your calendar. That'll be the third Sunday. No, actually be the fourth Sunday. Yep, because June's got 5 Sundays. That's what's throwing me off this time. We was coming over the road this morning. Lucas said, "When's Father's Day?" I said, "It's next week." And Desiree said something, and I thought, well, I'm not arguing. Well, then we got over here this morning, and I looked, and I told her, I said, "You was right." And I said, "I had to get right before I got in the pulpit." And so, but next week is not Father's Day, but it'll be the fourth Sunday Bible School will be starting, and then we will also be doing graduates on that Sunday. We'll be celebrating that, so mark that on your calendar. Is there any other announcements we need to mention tonight before we go to the Lord in Word of Prayer? Do remember our service will be here on Wednesday night. we will be having, no, we won't be having business meeting because it'll be the following week, right?
The business meeting will be June the 11th.
Yeah, so I always have to,
That's the second Wednesday.
that's right. I said it right. I mean, all you had to do was say yes. There was no need of going any further, no. But we'll be having, I told the hookers tonight, I said, Jamie said it rained over here, said it hailed. I said, well, I think it's just the Lord's way of trying to get him right. But he ain't listening, Brother Donald. Yeah. Let's go to the Lord in word of prayer. Do remember all those on our prayer list. Continue to remember Miss Dorothy. I know she's probably wore out from going. She went to a Methodist church this morning. She's trying new churches too, brother. It must be something about living on this road out here. I mean, if you live on the road, everybody's trying each. No, I'm just speaking. Miss Dorothy went to a memorial service. Yeah. And then also do remember Mama. It's good to have her with us tonight. I told her, I said, if you got to get up and walk around, do whatever you got to do, but continue to remember her as she continues to recover. Continue to remember Brother Jim and Miss Pat, and then also Brother Jim's sister. And do continue to remember Brother Jamie. He's got some things going on. Continue to remember Clayton Smith. I do remember Paul and Linda. She goes this week to the surgeon about her breast cancer. Continue to remember her. Also remember Wayne and Gail. Miss Regina McKay, Marvin and Mary Marley, both of Miss Norma's brothers, Miss Diane Pierce, both of Brother Donald's Friends for Salvation, Miss Sherry Gerald, Julie Tucker, Audrey Burris, John Calicut, Miss Louise Dunn, Glenn Hawkins, Kenny Metters, Amy Brown, Kathy Free, Eddie Davis, and continue to remember Sutton and Emma, Miss Tammy Davidson, and then also Miss Bridget Gallimore. Is there any other outspoken prayer requests we need to mention tonight before we go to the Lord in word of prayer? Do continue to remember our Bible school coming up, because Miss Nikki needs your prayers. All the teachers need your prayers, and anything that'll be going on that week. And you say, well, that's a long ways away or not a long ways away, and I don't have young people. But hey, I tell you what, it's like I told the men this morning in our deacons meeting. I said, the next couple of months, we're going to be spending some money on the youth as far as we've done the outing on Friday, and then we're going to have Bible school. I said, but it's like putting money in your 401k. This right here is New Center's 401k right over here, and Clay out here. We're investing in the future, and I'm thankful that we do that, and I'm thankful for what we're going to be able to see one day. We don't never know what a week of Bible school could entail for some young person. It's life-changing, the Lord is, but I'm thankful that we got that coming up. If there's no other prayer requests this evening, let's all stand. Let's go to the Lord in a word of prayer. Brother Keith May, would you pray for us this evening? Amen.
Does everybody get a white hand? We'll turn to page 401. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, that calls me from a world of care, and bids me at my Father's throne make all my wants and wishes known. In seasons of distress and grief, my soul has often found relief, and oft escaped the tempting snare by thy hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer. Thy wings shall my preportions hear. To him whose truth and faithfulness engage the waiting soul to bless. And since he bid me seek his face, believe his word and trust his grace, I'll cast on him my every care and wait for thee, sweet hour of prayer. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, may I thy consolation share, till from Mount Pisgah lofty high I view my home and take my flight. This robe of flesh I'll drop and rise to seize the everlasting prize, and shall while passing through the air, farewell, farewell, sweet hour of prayer.
Got your Bibles this evening, turn to Ruth chapter 2. Ruth chapter 2 this evening. The 4 short chapters of Ruth are probably some of my favorite scriptures. And it really, there's a lot to dig into in there, and I'm thankful. We got 66 books, but then something as small as Ruth, just those 4 chapters, can enlighten us. Now, it helps me. I don't know whether it helps you or not, but I've preached out of Ruth several times, and just my short ministry. But I'm thankful to be back there again tonight. But so we look at Ruth chapter 2. I'm going to read 3 verses and share a thought with you this evening. Verse 1 says, And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, Let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, Go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech. The title of my message this evening is in the right place at the right time. But the thing about God, there is no happenstance. There is no happenstance as to, we often say, well, it just happened that way. But the thing about it is, nothing just happens in God's sight. Nothing just happens by circumstances. A lot of times we'll get up in the morning and not know how our day is going to unfold. And we're like, oh, I didn't know that was going to take place today. Or, oh, I didn't know I had this coming up. But nothing has ever surprised the Lord that way. Nothing has ever took him off guard. And Ruth was in the intentions of just going and gleaning in this field, but she happened to stumble upon the field where she was supposed to be. And I'm thankful that God works it out in that way. But we know the story of Ruth, how She was the daughter-in-law of Naomi, and how Naomi and her husband Elimelech had left Bethlehem. They had left the house of bread looking for bread. That just don't seem quite right of why they would leave God's house and go somewhere else looking for bread. Now they wound up down in the land of Moab, down in a place where they should have never started out at, but that's a different message for a different time. And Elimelech led his family down there, and then wound up he died. And his two sons died after they got married. And then we all know the story of how Ruth clave to Naomi and said, I'm going to make your God my God, and your people's going to be my people. But then Orpah went back, she made the decision to go back home to be with her family. But as we see here tonight, God was working behind the scenes. And I'm thankful that He's still continuing to work behind the scenes in our lives, the day and hour that we live in. He's not quit doing that. But it was custom in this day and hour that Ruth was living in, that if a fella owned the field, he was to leave like the corners, like the edges, so that the people could come in, the poor, the widows, the less fortunate, they could come in and glean from the corners of it. So they were supposed to leave just a little bit of that. Now that's where Ruth was hoping to go down and find something left over. I know there was a time when I was growing up that Grandpa had planted some corn in a couple of different places, and I don't know whose sorry combine he was using or getting to pick it, but they was missing about half of it. I can remember going through that. We picked up pickup bed after pickup bed of corn that man had run over. He had just mashed it down, and I felt like Ruth out there gleaning, Brother Donald. I was out there picking up all that corn that had been missed, but I'm thankful that the Lord throws us a handful of purpose out. I think about that song, how Brother Josh and them sing, how that's where she was at, just looking for something that had been left over. I'm thankful that God's leftovers is good. They're good enough for me. They're good enough for you as well. But Ruth's faithfulness and humility placed her in a position to receive God's favor and provision. If Ruth had stayed back at the house, if she had whined to Naomi and said, well, your sorry husband took you off down there, and then they found me, and I've had to come back to this land and had to find food for us, and it's just a bad situation. But that's not the way Ruth was. Ruth, she was willing to go and do and have to be humble. As God's people, we've got to find humility in our life. I have to have humility in my life. Way of humbling me a lot of times. I know I said it a couple of weeks ago, how I come in thinking that there wouldn't be nobody here, and then all of a sudden it seemed like we had the biggest crowd that we'd had that Sunday in a long time. He has a way of humbling me and showing me that, hey, you're not in control of this situation, I am. She ended up in the right place at the right time, but we know that nothing happens in life as in a coincidence. But as we look at this 3 short verses here, let's look at how God prepares the right people. Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, and his name was Boaz. Boaz was a man of position and character. Now this was not just any man that they had been able to come in and glean in. This was some of Elimelech, some of Naomi's husband's people. As you know, you go back and you read the rest of the story, read the rest of the book of Ruth there, how in those times there was proper order. I think you can find that in, I've got it right down here, Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 25, verse 25. I'll read that here in just a minute. But it talks about how there could be a kinsman redeemer. Like if that woman's husband died and her sons died, there was somebody in the family that could redeem that woman's land, that could redeem what they owned. And we know as custom in this time, a woman had no right. Naomi could not go down to the gate and say, all right, now this was my land when we left, I'm taking it back. That's not the way it worked. But there had to be a kinsman redeemer. I'm thankful that that God sent us a kinsman redeemer through His Son, Jesus Christ. He paid the ultimate price for us. He was willing to pay what He shouldn't have had to pay for a bunch of sinners such as I. But Boaz was a man of position and character. He was a mighty man of wealth. Not only in riches, but he was respected by the community as well. Proverbs 22:29 says, seest thou a man diligent in his business, he shall stand before kings. but I've already said it, but I'm thankful that God sent us a kinsman redeemer through his son Jesus. Not only was Boaz a man of position and character, but Boaz was related to Elimelech. I've got ahead of myself. He was a kinsman redeemer, someone that had the right to restore what was lost. We'll read Leviticus 25:25 says, If thy brother be waxen poor, then shall his kinsman that is sent unto him come and redeem that which his brother sold. So therefore Boaz was able to redeem what was rightfully Elimelech's, what was rightfully Naomi's and the rest of the family. God already has the right people in place before your need ever arises. I'm thankful that I hate to even give him credit for it, but I think it was Brother Jamie that made mention of this here a while back. He said, God's already got the right people here that we need in this place. And we do. And God's still sending new folks in, and I'm thankful for that. But God gives us what we need to be able to survive. God gives us the folks that we need to be able to get us through the situations that we're in. I can look back at my life and see people that's had an impact on me, how God put them there not by happenstance, but by the fact that they was willing to be used by God to be what I needed to get me on down the road. I'm thankful as I look out here in this congregation this evening of folks that's been a blessing to me down through the years. People that's been an encouragement to me down through the years. And I'm thankful, and I hope and pray that some of you can look and say, well, he's halfway been an encouragement to me. But as we look at that, God puts folks in our life. And I'm thankful for people. I know that I've got the Lord. The Lord's never going to leave me nor forsake me, but I sure am thankful for the friends that I have. I sure am thankful for the church family that I have, the family that I have, knowing that those people have got my back. Knowing that the Lord has my back ultimately, but God has put those other folks in my life to get me along down the road, the place that I need to go. Boaz was this for Ruth and Naomi. He was that one that God had prepared. It didn't say he was a poor man. It didn't say that he was a man that didn't have nothing. No, it said he was a man of wealth, a man of position and character. So not only was they going to get their bellies full, but they was going to get to find some favor in a man that had some money, a man that would be able to take care of them. But God prepares the right people, but not only that, God honors the right posture. It says, verse 2 says, Let me now go to the field, after him in whose sight I shall find grace. Ruth shows humility and initiative. We have to show some initiative a lot of times in our life to be able for God to show up and show off the way that He does. I think God looks at us a lot of times to see whether or not we're going to take the first step. Now, I know that there's been times where He's had to move me in the right directions and kind of nudge me to take that first step. But Ruth could have sat at home and said, you know what? Naomi, it sure was a long walk down where we just come from. And, down there in the land of Moab, we didn't really do things this way. We just kind of sat around and maybe somebody would look after us if we begged enough or if we did this. But no, she had initiative to get out and work. God's people need to have initiative to work, and I'm thankful that we've got a room full of people that's more than capable to work and people that are willing to work. I didn't mention him this morning, but Brody, I talked to him Wednesday evening. I said, there's 2 windowsills over here that rotted out. I said, is that something you can take care of? Yeah, we'll look at it. He said, I might be able to get it Saturday. We'll go out there and look. The windowsills done been took care of. God puts people in our congregations, puts people able to do things. We've got people that's willing to teach, got people that's willing to sing, got people that's willing to play, we've got people that's willing to work. And it takes all of us to make this big cog go around and around. But the one that really takes is the Lord. If we take the Lord out of the situation, it's almost like taking the center of the hub out. I think we've been replacing bearings on a crusher, and there's a shaft in the center of that bearing that bearing rides on. You take that shaft out of that bearing, and it's just going to wobble around. It ain't going to have any direction. But you put that shaft on there and bolt it into the right place, it'll work like it's supposed to for a short time, and then nature takes its course, and we have to replace it again. But that's the way that God is. If we put Him in the center of it, if we put Him fixed in the middle of it, and He's the one that's at the forefront of our worship, He's at the forefront of all that we do, we've done got the battle won. But a lot of folks don't want to do that. They don't want to put God first. They want to put their intentions first. They want to put their agenda first. But I sure am thankful that Ruth had the right position or had the right posture. She showed humility. She didn't wait for someone to give her a handout. She was willing to work. 2 Thessalonians 3:10 says, if any would not work, neither should he eat. It's just like the song that we sing from time to time. We'll work till Jesus comes. Guess what? We're here. God's left us here to work. I say it all the time, and people probably get tired of hearing it. It's like I was giving Jamie a hard time about Wednesday evening about him saying, you think about that. I say it that people don't get saved just to sit on the porch and rock in a rocking chair. We've got something to do. The thing about it is you say, well, the Lord ain't really showed me anything that I need to do. He may not. He may not give you some big task. The only task that He may give you is to be faithful to God's house, to be a faithful church member. And that's okay, because guess what? If we don't have faithful church members, we ain't going to have people here. The pews, it's going to be like this section right here. There ain't nobody over here tonight. I can't talk to this crowd over here. They quiet, they're attentive, but hey, I'm not getting much out of them. But we've got to have faithful workers. We've got to have faithful church members. But we've got to work. Ruth expected favor, not entitlement. The day and hour that we live in, there's more people that look for entitlement than they do. She expected favor because Boaz was supposed to. She didn't go in there hollering when she got into the field, hey, I'm Elimelech's daughter-in-law. Who's the man I need to see about getting what's owed to me? That ain't the way Ruth went about it. She had to work. She had to come in and find favor from that man. She wasn't entitled to anything. She says, in whose sight I shall find grace, not who owes me something. James 4:6 tells us, God resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. If you approach life with humility and expectation, you'll often walk into unexpected blessings. As my youngins grow older and we try to teach them what they need to in life's journey and how this world's not going to be as kind to them as mom and daddy is. But a lot of times folks have raised up their youngins like they're entitled to something. I'm just going to be honest with you. The only thing that I'm entitled to this evening is hell. That's what I deserve is hell. But I'm thankful that the Lord didn't send me there, that He gave me grace and give me mercy and give me the opportunity to be saved, and I accepted that opportunity. And I'm thankful that He's given me the opportunity to stand and to preach and to teach and to do the things that He allows me to do. But it's not because I'm entitled to anything. It's not because I'm any better than anybody else. It's because that we're in the right place at the right time, that God allows us to do the things that we do. And I'm thankful that I'm looking at folks that are here tonight in the right place at the right time to be able to do things for the Lord, because He's given us all something to do. But we got to approach life with humility. Not only did God honor the right posture, but God directs the right path. Verse 3 says, and her hap was to lie on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz. Her hap, in her mind, in her words, it seemed like coincidence, but it was no coincidence where Ruth wound up that day. From a human view, she just happened to end up in Boaz's field. But she didn't just happen to end up in Boaz's field. We know there was a God above that was directing her path that day. She didn't know which way she was going. She didn't know that that's where she was going to wind up at. She didn't know that she was going to wind up in the right man's place. She could have wound up in his neighbor's field. And that man had no right to give her anything. He didn't have no right. He could not be her kinsman redeemer. But because of God worked this out, just like us, He's worked things out in our life that we don't even know is going to happen yet. But I sure am thankful that He has, because if we was just going through life rolling the dice as to how it was going to go that day, boy, it sure would be a miserable life. Even on days that it's bad, I know that He's still in control. I know that He's still in charge. There are no accidents in God's kingdom, only divine appointments. And she had an appointment with Boaz that day. She was going to meet her kinsman redeemer. I think back in my life, in my walk in this life, and how there's been appointments that I've had to meet as far as doctor's appointments, as far as appointments to be certain places at certain times, but I'm thankful for the spiritual appointments that I've had. I'm thankful for the appointment the day that I got saved. I'm thankful that I didn't miss that appointment. I'm thankful for the appointment the day that I answered the call to preach. I'm thankful for when I've seen Him do big things and mighty things around here at this place. No accidents happen in God's sight. Not only was her hap seem like coincidence, but God's sovereignty in Ruth's steps. Psalms 37:23 says, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. Proverbs 6:9 says, a man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. The thing about it is, if we're following, it's like in school, there used to be, they probably don't even do it no more. Everybody gets to be the leader in the day and hour that we live in today. But when I was growing up in school, the teacher would pick somebody to be the leader. And as long as you was good, you got to be the leader. But now if you got unruly, got sideways or something like that, got your name on the board, got a check beside it, guess what? You was going to the back of the line. You wasn't getting to be the leader. But as we're following the leader, God is our leader. God is the one that we're supposed to be following. But so many times people hitch their wagon up to the wrong leader. They'll hitch their wagon up to man. I'm just a man. If you're following me, you're following the wrong thing. Now, I'm kind of like Paul. I say, follow me as I follow the Lord. Don't follow me because I'm your pastor. Follow me because of who I follow. We've got to put our faith and trust in the Lord, not in man, because guess what? Man will let you down. Been let down by some men, been let down by some women in this life, and I realize that people will let you down. And most of the time, it's the people that you love the most that will let you down. Most of the time, it's family that'll be the one that let you down. I feel like I failed my mama because I hadn't been down there to see her every day. She's got a halfway decent fellow looking after her, but I'm just waiting on the phone call for her to say, you got to come get me. But she hadn't done it yet. But I do. I feel like I let people in this church down. I was talking to Brother Marvin this week. I feel ashamed that I don't go over there and see them all the time. I feel ashamed that I hadn't come to visit each and every one of you. I'm just a man, though. That's the point that I'm trying to get across. I'm just a man. Don't follow me, but follow me as I follow the Lord, because He's the one that's going to get us through. Ruth was a God. I've done messed up now. Got all my God's sovereignty in Ruth's steps. That's where I was at. We got to follow in the steps that God has placed before us. Like Proverbs says, a man's heart divideth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. I'm thankful that the Lord directs our steps in the way that we need to go. Not only is He sovereign in her steps, but she found the field of favor. Ruth was not only in Boaz's field, but she was in the field of her destiny. She found the right field at the right time. This would lead to the provision, protection, and marriage, and being in the lineage of Jesus. Sometimes you don't know where you're walking. You don't know that you're walking into destiny. You're just following faith and ending up in the field of favor. Ruth didn't realize where she was at. She did not realize that she was about to walk into the field that was going to change her life. All she knew was that she had a mother-in-law at home named Naomi, and that she needed to go out and find them something to eat. She left the house that morning trying to find them something so that they could eat, and maybe find enough so that they could sell, so they could have provisions for the rest of the time. But all of a sudden, she walked into a field that would change her life. I can think of services that I've walked into that has changed my life. I'm thankful for the service that I walked into the night that I got saved. I'm thankful for the services that I've come into, and that God has really done something powerful in my life. You don't never know when you step out of your car on that parking lot what kind of service. That may be your field of favor that gets preached on that day. That may be something that God moves in a mighty way in your life. You may not even be at this place. You may be somewhere else. There's a place over there on our driveway that I pray. And I got out the other morning and was talking to the Lord, and I forsook that place. I pass by it every day going to the chicken houses. I've been by it. I go by it. I'll be thinking about something else. My house is less than 300 yards from this place. I'll get in my vehicle with good intentions that I'm going to stop and I'm going to pray and I'm going to get out in fellowship with the Lord. And the next thing you know, I'm pulling up in between house 1 and 2 and forgot all where I was supposed to go. And I got out and I told the Lord, I said, Lord, I'm sorry for forsaking this place. Because it's a place where God has met with me time and time again. It's a place where God has done things in my life I can't explain to nobody else. But I'm thankful for those places that He gives us. I'm thankful for that field of favor that He allows us to walk through from time to time. I'm thankful for the fellowship that He allows us to be in with Him if we would just give Him the time of day. Ruth was not only in Boaz's field, but she was in the field of destiny. Like I said, it would lead to her being in the lineage of Jesus. See, the thing about it was, when her and Boaz got married, they had a son named Obed. Then old Obed had a son named Jesse. And then old Jesse had a son named David. And then we all know who come from the lineage of David. Jesus Himself. This Moabitess woman. This woman that had no reason to be in God's lineage, to be in the lineage of Jesus. That's me. I have no reason to be right where I'm at right now. But it's all because of His favor. All because of what He's done for me. Not because of me. It wasn't Ruth that done anything. It was God allowing her, guiding her steps as she went along the way. Lastly tonight, God blesses the right faithfulness. As she went and came and gleaned, faith without works is dead. Ruth didn't just talk about gleaning, she went and she came and worked. James 2:17 says, even so faith, if hath not works, is dead. We're not saved by our works by any means. There are religions out there that teach their folks the only way they're going to get into heaven is that they work. Now, the thing about Christianity is when you get saved, it makes you want to work. It makes you want to work for the Lord. But we're not saved by our works. It's not like we're working to get tallies up in heaven for God to say, well, He done that, she done this. Well, look at what they done today. That's not why we do what we do. But faith without works is dead. God blesses consistent obedience. Galatians 6:9 tells us, and let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. We can't give up. Life's too short to give up. Don't despise the small beginnings. You know, we've been talking about Bible school and all that we're looking forward to. People look at that as something small. But look at what small could start in that little meeting, in that little 4 or 5 night series of meetings that we go through. There could be a young man or a young woman that could come in and get saved and that could set the world on fire. We don't never know who's going to walk through any of these doors. We don't never know if any of this crowd sitting back here or out here that God's going to use to make a difference. But we got to keep going. No matter how small the beginnings are, we got to keep on. Ruth started out in a little bitty field. I don't know how big the field was. I say it was little. But she went from being one that come in gleaning to coming in to being the great-grandma of the lineage of Jesus. Gleaning and obedience today can lead to reaping destiny tomorrow. As we try to tie everything back together, what may seem like an ordinary decision in an ordinary field turned into a divine setup for Ruth. I mean, the Lord really set her up. He set her up because she come in being worshiping false gods. She was a Moabitess lady, so that meant she worshiped Molech. She was down there, and she may have even seen some of her siblings. She may have seen some of her family members be offered on the altars of Molech, because that's what they did. They fed their God with their children to try to gain respect from that God. But then she turned from serving someone like that to serving the true God. And God set her up in different steps, in different days, and every time she made a step towards Him. And because she made a step towards Him, He guided the people in her life. He guided the provisions in her life. The things that she needed, He provided for her. So a lot of times we don't look at life that way. That we don't look that God has given us all that we need. We had that attitude, well, Lord, I sure would like a little bit more. I'm guilty. I'll just be honest with you. I'm just as guilty as the next person. We had that tendency to want more. Sometimes we just need to be satisfied with what God's given us. she was in the right place. She was in Boaz's field. Boaz would be able to redeem her and Naomi. If you read the rest of this book and how he went, there was actually one more ahead of him that could have been her kinsman redeemer, but then he kind of sweet-talked him into stepping back and allowing Boaz to be the one to redeem them. But she was in the right place. She was there also at the right time. It didn't say that they come in during wintertime when nothing was going on. She come in at harvest time. She come in when the fields were white, ready to harvest. Whether it be corn, whether it was wheat, whatever it was, that they was in the ripe season. I'm thankful for God allowing me to walk into fields, not fields that's just been planted, but fields where I could actually reap from with the right purpose or the right posture. She had humility and diligence for the right blessing, provision, protection, and ultimately redemption. Something that's that should encourage us, we need to keep showing up. We need to keep serving and keep trusting, because we never know when that blessing is going to be right around the corner. I heard a preacher put it this way. He was talking about people, talking about the valleys that they endure in this life and how they should try to get out of those valleys. But he said, I'm not going to preach somebody out of their valley, because you never know what blessing may be getting ready to come around the corner that's in that valley that they need to be able to endure. I'm thankful for the valleys that I've had to go through in this life. I'm thankful for the blessings that I've received in those valleys, of how God has showed off and showed up in mighty ways that I can't ever describe how He's done it. But we got to keep showing up. We got to keep serving. You may feel like you're just gleaning, but God is writing a redemption story behind the scenes. Ruth thought she was just going down there to get some groceries for her and Naomi. She wound up and got more than just a couple of ears of corn for her, and I'm thankful for that. Maybe you're here tonight and you're in a waiting season. Trust that God has the right people and paths already prepared. We've got to trust that God's already made the way for us. If we don't, we're doubting that He's God and who He says He is. Maybe you're here tonight and walking in humility and obedience. We've got to stay faithful. Your Boaz moment might be closer than you think. If you give up today, I keep going back to Brother Josh and his family. I told him this morning, he texted me. I said, brother, you've been on my mind. I guess he's been on my mind because I was going to use him in his illustrations this evening. But they sing that song, help won't help tomorrow if you give up today. That's so true. We can't give up. Our loved one may get saved tomorrow, but if we give up today, that may not happen. That thing that you've been praying about, that healing that you've been praying about, that miracle that you've been needing to move in your life, it may be just around the corner. We got to keep looking forward. Maybe you need to renew your faith in God's providence. We got to let Him lead our steps, because He is the one that will lead us. Now, I think back to that being the leader in class. There was some that you didn't want leading the class, because you'd start out heading to lunch and wind up in the gym. You'd start out to lunch and wind up in the library. Brother, when it was lunchtime, we always found the lunchroom when I was the leader. That was not me. But you got to pick and choose who leads you. God's not going to lead you astray. Like I told you, man will, but God's not going to. We got to put all of our faith and trust in Him, because He's guiding the steps and the paths that we need to be walking down. We just got to look to Him for all things. Not just some. I'm guilty of that. I'll just look for Him on the days that I need Him. Well, guess what? Every day that ends in Y, I need Him. You'll catch that about tomorrow, because every day in the week ends in Y. I need Him every day. I need Him 365 and 366. Even on the leap years, I still need Him. We got to keep keeping on, because the best is yet to come. I don't want to miss the prize. I don't want to miss the mark. I don't want to finish before my race is done. We got to keep driving. We got to keep pressing towards Him, because He's been too good to me for me to stop. He's been too good for me to give up. Look at what He done for Ruth, just because she was faithful and humble in the way that she served. We got to keep serving. We may not see some people go through life looking for the rewards. Some people get them here and some people don't. And that's okay. If the Lord never gives me any kind of recognition down here, I'm okay with that. Because it said, the Bible tells us we're supposed to be laying up our treasures in heaven. That's where our treasure should be laid up. Now, I'm thankful that we get the pats on the back down here and get the attaboys every once in a while. But recognition down here don't mean nothing to me. It means the world to know that God's keeping a record of it in heaven. That's what's important. As we go in the days to come, let's look for Him to do something big. I'm looking for Him to do something big right here at New Center. I really am. I'm looking for that Boaz moment. I'm thankful for what He's doing already. I don't want to belittle what He's already done in the short time that I've been your pastor. And it's not because of me. I'll go ahead and tell you that right now. It's all because of Him. But I'm looking for God to do something big around here. I think of the churches that I've seen that their numbers get down, and then all of a sudden God allows that blossom, God allows that bloom to start happening again, that hedge start putting out. I'm thankful that He's given me those examples in my life. I think of Brother Colton. I think of Crossroads many times. He told me when they voted on him, I think there was less than 30 people that voted on him. Now they're running 250, 300 a service on a Sunday morning. Now look, I ain't scaring nobody by any means. We like our elbow room right here. I don't want nobody thinking that he's trying to give my seat away. I'm not doing that. But I'm just saying I'm looking for God to do something big around here. You say, why are you doing that? Because He's a big God and He can do it. If we expect big things, guess what? He might do big things. But if we come in saying, well, He can't do it. It's kind of like old Ezekiel. He asked Ezekiel, he said, can these dry bones walk again? Can they come together? And Ezekiel said, if you do what they can, I know if God does it, He can do anything around here. And I'm just going to put my faith and trust in Him. Father, I thank You for this thought tonight. Lord, I thank You for Ruth and the example that she is, Lord, to us of how we're not supposed to quit, how we're supposed to keep stepping in the right direction towards You. Father, I pray that You bless around here in the days to come. Lord, may we keep our heads down. God, may we keep focused on You because the best is yet to come. Lord, I pray, God, that You would send in lost souls to be saved. Lord, I pray that You would send in Christians to get their lives right with You. Lord, I pray that You might bless through the remainder of this week. Lord, bring us back out to Your house this Wednesday evening. God bless in that study. Father, I pray that You just might use us in here, around here in a mighty way. We love You. In Jesus' name I pray.